Kadyn Proctor has made a lot of news this week with his decision to re-enter the transfer portal when it opens up and transfer back to Alabama. Now, to set the scene for you, Kadyn Proctor, when Nick Saban retired, transferred from Alabama to Iowa, the hometown team, a team that he was committed to out of high school before flipping to Alabama right before signing day. So now he decided he's going to, again, re-enter the transfer portal and head back to Alabama. And the collective at Iowa put out a statement basically saying, hey, listen, yes, he got paid, but he did not get paid from our boosters. So what do we make of all this? What do we think about this whole situation with Kadyn Proctor? Heck, what does it mean for college football in the future? Got some thoughts on it. Appreciate y'all being dialed in. Make sure you are subscribed to the On3 YouTube channel. College football, man, has proven it's a year-round sport. Kadyn Proctor announcing he's going to enter the transfer portal. He doesn't care about the calendar. College football doesn't care about the calendar anymore. It is now a year-round thing. Want y'all subscribed. We appreciate y'all in advance for being subscribed and being out in to this wonderful sport that is, of course, college football. So Kadyn Proctor, 5-star plus kind of player out of high school, the number one tackle in the class of 2023, a freshman All-American at Alabama, is heading back to Tuscaloosa after being at Iowa for a very short period of time. Never practiced, never played for Iowa. So the collective at Iowa, called the Swarm Collective, put out a statement that said Kadyn Proctor did not receive any NIL money from the boosters. The statement said he received a portion of his contracted payments from a sponsoring business. Okay, so a lot of people, as soon as Kadyn Proctor announced he was heading back to Alabama, were very quick to say, hey, he played the system. He played the system. He took Iowa's money. Now he's heading back to Tuscaloosa without having given us anything in return. And I understand where you're coming from. You feel slighted. There's some emotion baked into that and saying, well, Kadyn Proctor was going to play for us, and then he got paid, and then he went back to his old school and took his money. I don't know if it's exactly quite as black and white as that. Because I don't think that Kadyn Proctor went to Iowa with the intention of eventually transferring back to Alabama. Like, let's just call a spade here, man. If you're a big-time college football player like Kadyn Proctor is, at a premium position that is offensive tackle, you're going to get paid anywhere you go. Whether it was Iowa, whether it was Alabama, whether it was some other school, Kadyn Proctor receiving NIL compensation is never going to be one of those things that is an issue for him. All right, so the fact that he decided to go back to Alabama, that this was not a premeditated thing to go get money out of Iowa and kind of leverage it against Alabama. I'm not saying NIL wasn't a factor in his recruitment either way, but I am saying NIL being the end-all, be-all, and saying he just took money from Iowa to go back to Bama. Come on now, we're kidding ourselves a little bit here. The issue being taken, again, is that he never played or practiced for Iowa. And I understand the frustration. You thought you were going to get something out of Kadyn Proctor in the fall, and that didn't happen, and so you're frustrated that he got paid, period. But here's the thing, man. People get paid for a lot less than what Kadyn Proctor got paid for from Iowa. Like, people are getting paid now to take visits to places, much less be on the team and lift weights and go through winter conditioning. People are getting paid to show up at a school, not to commit, just to show up and take a visit. Kadyn Proctor was paid for being on that roster. That was what he was paid for. Had a contracted payment, it sounds like. Went and was a part of the team. Like, Kadyn Proctor wasn't paid for being on the field. And that's what this collective is saying. Hey, he didn't get money from our NIL boosters. He got paid from a sponsored business as a part of his contracted payment. So what I'm trying to say here is folks are like upset that he got paid for being at Iowa without practicing or playing a game. I understand that. But whose fault is that? You don't blame Kadyn Proctor for being paid for being on Iowa's team. I don't think there's anybody that you can really blame here. And so there's some folks now, and I've seen this on the Twitter sphere, which is always a dangerous place to draw information from, but I see some folks saying, well, he should give that money back. He should never gotten that money in the first place. And my question is, why? Why? He was being paid, again, for being on Iowa's football team. That was what he was paid for. He wasn't paid for what he's going to do in the game just yet. He wasn't paid for anything with practice. He was paid to be on Iowa's football team, which he did. He went through winter conditioning. He went through all that. When you change your mind on something and you want to go and take another route in life, you just kind of roll with it, right? You just kind of take it all as it comes. It's not a perfect situation, but nothing in life ever really is. Personal story here. When I was starting my career, I went and did local news in Bryan, College Station, Texas. Great experience, learned a lot, but very, very quickly I figured out, like, hey, this isn't necessarily the job for me. I don't think this is a route that I want to go down for me professionally. It's not a knock on the profession, not a knock on anyone who does the profession. It was just like, hey, for me, I don't think this is right. And so before I was scheduled to have like a 3-month deal, or excuse me, a 3-year deal in place, I only stayed for 3 months. So should I give that money back to KBTX because I didn't fulfill a 3-year contract? No, I still worked for them. I never did on-air stuff for them in a on-camera capacity. But it's one of those things where, hey, I figured out that I wanted something different. So with that being the case, I got paid for what I did there, and then I left. It's not a knock on them. It's not a knock on me. It's just things change. Things change. There's obviously different language within that contract that I signed that made that doable, but like, it's not a knock on Kadyn Proctor that he decided Alabama was then best for him. He got paid to be on the roster, pivoted. It is what it is. And so where I think we're heading in college football, and I think what this whole situation could maybe be a catalyst for, I think we're heading towards a world where we have buyouts in college football from an NIL level with players. Because a lot of folks are very quick to say, well, the kids should be able to move around because the coaches move around so much. I agree with you there. I think having mobility as a player is massive, especially when the people you commit to are able to move around pretty freely. But that's the thing, though. They move around freely within the structure of a buyout. Like when a coach takes another job, he's not just taking a job for, no consequences for anybody else. Like a school has to buy out that contract more often than not to get that coach to come to their school. I think we're moving towards that when it comes to the NIL era too with players. Because obviously situations like this can happen, and if you want to move schools after there's already some sort of understanding in place, you should be able to have a buyout in place to protect you. So I think that just makes too much sense. College football continues to move towards a professional model, whether it be the super conference era that we all see coming, whether it be NIL and the structure that I think we're heading towards there with, I believe, contracts being inevitable for players all across the country. Buyouts feels like the next thing we should consider to make it a similar thing to professionals in the other worlds across college football or across other sports, college football kind of being that next frontier in my mind. So the Iowa Collective saying, hey, you got no money from any boosters. He was paid. Kadyn Proctor was paid for, I believe, what he did there. And it's unfortunate if you're an Iowa fan. Obviously, you had one expectation that wasn't met, but Kadyn Proctor heading back to Bama, I think it's an imperfect situation. Life is imperfect, and I don't have a ton of outrage to give the situation. I think it's kind of just one of those things that shrug your shoulders at. Life is life. It is what it is. Appreciate y'all being dialed in. Make sure you're subscribed. College football every single day on the On3 YouTube channel on this show, The Hard Count. We love y'all. We appreciate y'all. We're going to keep this party rolling now, and we will see y'all next time. Hey, y'all. Thanks so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel here to make sure you don't miss an episode of The Hard Count. Also, be sure to check out other videos on the On3 YouTube channel.